As meninas me chamaram pra ir comer lá no Jaó. Vamos pagar a broca hoje, aí eu tô indo. Elas vão me buscar de carro, mãe. Aí eu vou, né? Vai pagar comida e vai me buscar de carro e me deixar em casa. Sou besta.
How would we feel if the friends we thought were thicker than blood, the ones we trusted with our deepest secrets and most vulnerable moments, turned out to be the very ones plotting our destruction when we least expected it? At 7:49 p.m. on August 24th, 2021, 18-year-old Ariane Bárbara Laureano de Oliveira sent what would become her final message to her mother. In that voice recording, her excitement was unmistakable as she told her mom about friends picking her up for dinner, friends who would kill her less than 4 hours later. But this wasn't a crime of passion or even a robbery gone wrong. This was something far more disturbing. 4 young people had methodically planned to commit murder, not for money, not for revenge, but as a twisted psychological experiment. Tonight, we uncover the horrifying truth behind what investigators would call the Psychopath Test Murder. This video contains mature content discussing a real murder case involving violence and disturbing themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
You are watching True Crime Lens.
August 25th, 2021, Goiânia, the capital city of Goiás State, Brazil. Ariane Laureano woke up to every parent's worst nightmare. Her daughter's bed was empty, and she hadn't come home from what was supposed to be just a casual dinner with friends. Ariane was 18, old enough to stay out late, but this was different. She always texted her mother, always let her know when plans changed. The silence was completely out of character for a girl who maintained close contact with her family. By midday, when there was still no word from Ariane knew something was terribly wrong. She contacted the police and filed a missing person report, her voice shaking as she described the last time she'd seen her daughter getting ready to go out with her close friends. The hours turned into days, 48 hours, 72 hours, still nothing. As word of Ariane's disappearance spread through their social circle, the very friends she'd gone out with that Tuesday night became the most vocal advocates for finding her. Raisa Nunes Borges, 19 years old, contacted Ariane repeatedly, expressing deep concern for Ariane's safety. She joined search parties, combing through neighborhoods and parks. She shared missing person posts on social media, pleading with followers to help find her friend. Jefferson Cavalcante Rodriguez, 22, offered to drive Ariane around the city as they searched. He spoke to police officers, providing what appeared to be helpful information about Ariane's state of mind the last time he'd seen her. Enzo Giacomini, who went by the name Freya and was just 18, seemed devastated by Ariane's disappearance. They participated in volunteer search efforts, appearing genuinely distraught about their missing friend. Even a 16-year-old member of their skateboarding group joined the search efforts, helping to distribute flyers and organize community volunteers. To Ariane, these young people represented hope. They were the last ones to see Ariane alive, and their dedication to finding her seemed to prove they genuinely cared about her well-being. Their concern felt authentic. Their worry seemed real. By the 3rd day of Ariane's disappearance, local media outlets began covering the story. A young woman missing after going out with friends. It was the kind of case that captured public attention and demanded answers. Television reporters interviewed Ariane, broadcasting her desperate pleas for information. The missing person case was featured on news programs, with Ariane's photograph displayed alongside appeals for anyone with information to come forward. The media attention brought both hope and additional pressure. Hope that someone somewhere might have seen something that could lead to Ariane. Pressure on law enforcement to find answers for a grieving mother and a concerned community. Detective Marcos de Oliveira Gomes was assigned to lead the investigation. From the beginning, he suspected this wasn't a typical missing person case. The circumstances were too unusual. The complete silence from a young woman who maintained regular contact with her family was troubling. As the investigation intensified, police began examining surveillance footage from around the city, looking for any trace of Ariane or the friends she'd been with that night. On August 31st, 2021, 7 days after Ariane had excitedly left home for what she thought would be dinner with friends, a passerby in the Cerro neighborhood noticed a terrible smell coming from a wooded area. When police investigated, they discovered what every officer dreads finding: a body badly decomposed and partially hidden in dense vegetation. The remains were so deteriorated that immediate identification was impossible. But in her heart, Ariane already knew. The location, the timing, it all pointed to the worst possible outcome. Forensic investigators used fingerprint analysis to confirm what everyone feared. The body belonged to Ariane Bárbara Laureano de Oliveira. The search was over. The investigation was just beginning. The discovery of Ariane's body changed everything. This was no longer a missing person case. It was a murder investigation. Detective Gomes immediately focused on the last people known to have seen Ariane alive: her 4 friends who had been so helpful during the search efforts. Something about their behavior during the investigation had troubled him from the beginning. Surveillance cameras throughout the city had been quietly recording on the night of August 24th. When investigators reviewed the footage, they discovered something crucial. Jefferson's vehicle had been captured on camera in the vicinity of where Ariane's body was found, precisely during the time frame when she had gone missing. This wasn't just a coincidence. The location was remote, not somewhere you drive unless you had a specific purpose. When confronted with this evidence, Jefferson became the first to crack under pressure. In the interrogation room, faced with undeniable evidence placing his car at the crime scene, Jefferson Cavalcante Rodriguez broke down and confessed. But what he revealed was far more disturbing than investigators had imagined. This wasn't a crime of passion or an accident gone wrong. It was a premeditated murder, which planned in advance by the very people who had spent days helping search for Ariane's body. Jefferson's confession opened the floodgates. One by one, the other perpetrators were brought in for questioning, and piece by piece, the horrifying truth emerged. As investigators dug deeper into the perpetrators' backgrounds and motivations, a chilling picture began to emerge. The mastermind behind this horrific crime was Raisa Nunes Borges, the same young woman who had seemed so concerned about Ariane's disappearance. For weeks leading up to the murder, Raisa had been consumed by a disturbing obsession. She believed she might be a psychopath, and she'd become convinced there was only one way to find out for certain: by committing murder and analyzing her emotional response. This wasn't a sudden impulse or a mental break. According to police investigators, Raisa had methodically researched her twisted theory. She told her friends she didn't have any feelings and needed to conduct what she called a practical test on herself. But she couldn't do it alone. She needed accomplices, and she found them in her own social circle. The confessions revealed the extent of the perpetrator's planning. 24 hours before Ariane's murder, the 4 friends had sat down together and created something horrifying: a list of 3 people they were considering killing. This wasn't random selection. They had specific criteria for choosing their victim. They wanted someone small, someone physically vulnerable, someone who couldn't fight back effectively if they tried to escape. Ariane, petite and trusting, fit their requirements perfectly. Jefferson revealed that he'd prepared for the murder by lining his car trunk with plastic bags. He'd obtained 2 knives specifically for the killing. Most disturbing of all, they'd even selected a soundtrack, music about homicide, that would play during the murder. The plan was ritualistic in its precision. When the music reached a specific point, Jefferson would snap his fingers. That would be the signal for the killing to begin. Now, with the full truth emerging, investigators could piece together Ariane's final hours with horrifying clarity. That Tuesday evening, as Ariane got ready for what she thought would be a fun night out with friends, her killers were making their final preparations. She had no idea that the people she trusted most had already decided she would die that night. At 8:05 p.m., Ariane had sent that final audio message to her mother, the one that would haunt investigators and her family forever. The excitement in her voice, the complete trust she had in these people, made what happened next even more heartbreaking. The murder took place inside Jefferson's moving vehicle as they drove through the streets of Goiânia. Each killer had been assigned a specific role in their twisted plan. Raissa sat in the back seat next to Ariane, waiting for the predetermined signal. When Jefferson snapped his fingers to the beat of the homicide music, she immediately attempted to strangle her friend with her bare hands. But Raissa wasn't strong enough to complete the task alone. That's when Enzo climbed from the front passenger seat into the back to take over the strangulation. While Jefferson continued driving as if nothing was happening, Enzo successfully strangled Ariane until she lost consciousness. But they weren't finished with their horrific experiment. Once Ariane was helpless, both Raissa and the 16-year-old accomplice used the knives Jefferson had provided to stab the unconscious girl multiple times. Within minutes, it was over. Ariane, who had trusted these people enough to get in a car with them late at night, was dead. What happened next revealed the true depth of the killer's depravity. After confirming Ariane was dead, they drove to the wooded area in Setorjal and dumped her body in the dense vegetation. Then, in a display of shocking callousness, they went to a shopping mall and shared a meal together, just as they'd promised to do with Ariane. Security cameras captured them appearing relaxed, normal, even happy. You'd never guess they'd just committed murder. But perhaps most disturbing was what came next. They returned to their daily lives as if nothing had happened. They posted on social media, they interacted normally with friends and family, and when Ariane's mother reported her missing the next day, they became the most concerned friends imaginable. They joined search parties. They comforted Eliane. They provided false information to police while pretending to be worried about their victim's safety. For 7 days, they looked Eliane in the eye and lied about the last time they'd seen her daughter, knowing all along that Ariane was dead because they had killed her. The emotional impact of this betrayal cannot be overstated. Eliane Laureano hadn't just lost her daughter to random violence. She'd been deceived by the very people she trusted to help find Ariane. These weren't strangers who had targeted her child. They were people she'd welcomed into her home, people she'd fed at her dinner table, people she'd trusted with her daughter's safety.
Listen, a Barbie girl. Ew.
During the investigation, it emerged that Ariane had regularly sent her mother videos showing who she was spending time with. In some of those videos, recorded just days before her murder, Ariane was laughing and joking with the very people who would kill her. The audio message Ariane sent on her final night, her excitement about friends paying for dinner and giving her a ride, captured the complete trust she had in people who had already decided to end her life. That trust, preserved forever in the police files, serves as both a heartbreaking reminder of Ariane's innocence and a stark warning about the evil that can hide behind familiar faces. In September 2021, armed with confessions and physical evidence, police arrested all 4 perpetrators. The minor was processed through the juvenile system due to age, while the 3 adults faced charges of murder and concealment of a corpse. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Forensic analysis of Jefferson's car revealed traces of Ariane's blood. Clothing worn during the murder still bore bloodstains. One of the murder weapons was recovered during searches of the suspects' homes. But most damning were their own confessions, which revealed not just the mechanics of the murder, but the twisted psychological motivation behind it. Enzo Giacomini, known as Freya, was the first to face trial in March 2023. Despite defense arguments that Freya had no prior knowledge of the murder plan and only became aware of what was happening while in the vehicle, the jury wasn't convinced. The prosecution presented evidence that all 4 perpetrators had participated in planning the crime. Phone records, witness testimony, and the defendants' own statements painted a picture of a group effort to commit murder. On March 13, 2023, Freya was convicted of both homicide and concealment of a corpse, receiving a sentence of 15 years in prison. The joint trial of Raissa Nunes Borges and Jefferson Cavalcante Rodriguez took place in August 2023, nearly 2 years after they had murdered their friend and spent a week helping search for her body. Throughout the proceedings, Eliane Laureano was present, seeking justice for her daughter and closure for herself. Both defendants made full confessions during the trial. Raisa admitted to delivering the first stab wound to Ariane, though she claimed to feel remorse. "I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't tell the truth. So many times I've asked God to bring Ariane back." Jefferson attempted to claim he'd acted under duress, alleging that Raisa had threatened him and his family if he didn't participate. However, psychiatric evaluations confirmed that both defendants were fully aware their actions were criminal and had participated willingly. After 14 hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts for both defendants. Raisa Nunes Borges was sentenced to 15 years in prison plus fines. Jefferson Cavalcante Rodriguez received 14 years in prison plus fines. Both announced plans to appeal their sentence, but the message was clear. Their psychopath test had failed completely, revealing them to be nothing more than cold-blooded killers. The role of a 16-year-old girl whose identity remains protected under the Child and Adolescent Statute, known in court documents only as Sarah. What emerged during the adult trials painted a chilling picture of this minor's involvement. Far from being a reluctant participant swept up in someone else's crime, testimonies revealed she may have been the true architect of evil that night. According to Raisa's confession during her 2023 trial, it was Sarah who called her back to the rear seat of the vehicle, instructing her to stab the unconscious Ariane. But perhaps most disturbing were the words this 16-year-old allegedly spoke after witnessing the murder unfold. Sarah remarked to Freya, "I'm proud of you, but Raisa, I'm disappointed in you because you didn't finish her off." Raisa testified, her voice breaking as she recounted the minor's cold assessment of their victim's final moments. This wasn't the behavior of a scared child caught up in someone else's violence. This was calculated cruelty from someone barely out of childhood herself. In a system designed to rehabilitate rather than punish, Sarah received the maximum sentence available under Brazilian juvenile law, 3 years in a juvenile detention facility. While her adult accomplices received sentences ranging from 14 to 15 years in adult prisons, this minor, the one prosecutors say was most responsible for the crime, will be free before her 20th birthday. For Ariane Laureano, no sentence could bring back her daughter or erase the pain of such a senseless loss. The betrayal was particularly devastating because these weren't strangers who had targeted Ariane. They were people she'd trusted with her child's life. The case sent shockwaves through Brazil and beyond. The idea that young people could plan and execute such a calculated crime while maintaining the facade of concerned friends was deeply disturbing. Mental health professionals used the case to highlight the dangers of self-diagnosis and the misuse of psychological concepts. They emphasized that legitimate concerns about mental health should always be addressed through proper professional channels, never through criminal experimentation. The case also raised troubling questions about the influence of popular media portrayals of psychology and the potential for disturbed individuals to misinterpret or misuse such information. As we conclude this investigation, it's crucial to remember Ariane Bárbara Laureano de Oliveira not just as the victim of a sensational crime, but as a young woman whose life was filled with promise and joy. She was 18 years old, passionate about skateboarding, devoted to her mother, and blessed with the ability to see good in the people around her. Her trust in others, captured in that final audio message, reflected a beautiful innocence that made her both beloved and vulnerable. The psychopath test that Raisa Nunes Borges conducted revealed nothing meaningful about psychology or mental health, but it revealed everything in capacity for calculated cruelty that exists in our world. And the devastating consequences when trust is weaponized by those who lack basic human empathy. Today, Ariane's killers sit in Brazilian prisons, their twisted experiment having taught them nothing except the weight of their own evil. But Ariane's memory lives on through her mother's love and through the lessons her case teaches us about the preciousness of trust and the importance of cherishing those who see the best in us. In the end, Ariane's trusting nature wasn't a weakness. It was a strength that her killers could never understand or possess, and that's something they'll have to live with for the rest of their lives. Understanding these twisted minds might keep you safe, Subscribe for more shocking investigations, share your thoughts below, and remember, evil often wears a friendly mask.